today's Rebel Caravan. I'm Dr. Nancy Lough, UNLV professor, co-director of the Sport Research and Innovation Initiative, and chair of the Intercollegiate Athletics Council. And I am uniquely positioned to lead this conversation today, having once served as a college coach and athletic administrator, and even being a student athlete prior to becoming a faculty member. In recent years, women in sport and women's sport have seen monumental shifts, such as the U.S. women's national soccer team winning their 4th World Cup in front of billions of viewers, the hiring of Kim Ng, the first female general manager in Major League Baseball history, the first female assistant coach in the NFL in Jen Welter with the San Francisco 49ers, the NBA's first acting head coach, Becky Hammon, and of course, the first woman to officiate a Super Bowl game this last year. And lastly, the first woman to actually score points in a Power 5 football game, Sarah Fuller for Vanderbilt. So it's been a pretty significant year and a lot of really good things happening in the area of women's sport and women in sport. So in recognition of this seismic shift happening for women who are pursuing careers in sport, today we will talk with UNLV's dynamic athletic director, Desiree Reed-Francois, and the visionary women coaches that are leading UNLV's women's teams. I'm going to do a brief introduction of the panelists. So to begin with our introductions, UNLV's Director of Athletics, Desiree Reed-Francois, joined UNLV in 2017, has hired one of the most diverse staffs in all of NCAA Division I athletics, including head women coaches of women's sport, which is actually a really big deal. Currently, there's only 40% of women's college teams that have a woman head coach. So UNLV is setting a new standard with this team of leading women. Introducing our coaches, Lady Rebel head coach Lindy La Rocque just completed her first season at UNLV as in high fashion, winning her Coach of the Year award in her very first season. Volleyball head coach, yeah, go ahead and wave, Lindy. Volleyball head coach Dawn Sullivan, who in her 4th season at UNLV took the team to the NCAA national tournament. She had an undefeated regular season, only losing to the eventual national champions, University of Kentucky. Did you wave to the crowd, Dawn? Yeah, very good stuff there. Women's soccer head coach, Jenny Ruiz-Williams. Wave at the crowd, Jenny. There you are. Former Rebel student athlete, joined UNLV right before the pandemic. Lucky you. After an impressive professional soccer career and experience playing in the Olympic Games, as well as FIFA World Cups. And then we have softball head coach, Christy Fox. Christy joined UNLV in 2017, and her team is currently in 2nd place in the Mountain West Conference. So all things good happening with UNLV softball. Track and field head coach Yvonne Wade, who competed as an Olympic athlete, has been Mountain West Conference Coach of the Year 3 times, currently going for number 4, and has made UNLV history in so doing. When asked how many All-Americans she coached, which I just asked her, she said she doesn't know, but it's probably in the hundreds. Women's golf head coach Amy Bush-Herzer. Hi, Amy. She has inspired an entire community of women golfers, winning 4 Mountain West Conference championships over 7 years, championing 2 All-Americans and having 1 National Player of the Year runner-up. So welcome to all of our head coaches and our athletic director. Our topic today is the value of women in sport and the transformational impact women leaders can have on young people. So guiding question number 1, Desiree, we're going to start with you. And then we'll ask each of the coaches to respond as well. So you don't get off the hook real easy here, folks. What motivated you to participate in sport? And what was the turning point that drove you to pursue a profession in sport?
So when I'm listening to all of our coaches' incredible accolades, I can tell you, so we have All-Americans, national champions, just all around incredible athletes. That was not my story. So I wanted to run track at UCLA. After about 2 weeks of track practice, it became very evident that I do not have Coach Wade's speed. But I worked hard and I'm 6 feet tall and they said, hey, you want to row. You're not good enough to run track, but try rowing. So that was my recruiting story, but why I love college sports and why I love just sports in general is I love the opportunity to compete. Growing up in a Hispanic family, sports was a way that I really could do that, and it wasn't judged. It was something that was encouraged. And I love the thrill of competition, and I love being part of a team and making others around us better. So sports has been my salvation. I remember Coach Fox once mentioned that she wanted the softball field to be her student athlete's sanctuary. And that really spoke to me because the pool, the track, whatever field I was on, it was like my wonderful safe space where I could just really be myself. So I love the meritocracy. I love that it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. If you can play, you can really play and you can be a part of something special.
Thank you for that. And I think, Kristie, you get to be on the hot seat since Desiree mentioned you. What motivated you to participate in sport, and what was the turning point that drove you to pursue it as a profession?
For me, my dad was, he did football, he did baseball, he was drafted, went back and played college football actually with San Diego State. And then my mom was a professional cheerleader. So sports kind of was in my blood from the very, very beginning. I was a very, very high energy, competitive little kid. And I think Desiree kind of already hit on it. It was a place to go and be competitive, and it be okay. And it be okay for a woman or a young girl to be competitive. And then the other piece that really kept me in it in the long run was that's how I made friends. That was my friendship pool. That was how I created relationships. I did everything. I did softball, I did soccer, I did volleyball, I did basketball. And I just really enjoyed the environment that it provided me. So, my mom did a great job of kind of creating this way for me to get my competitiveness out and at the same time create relationships and friendships. And I think I just learned so much through my athletic experiences throughout my life that once I got to college, I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do moving forward, was be able to share my experiences and have more women and have more girls get these experiences at the next level and have that safe space to be competitive, but also to have fun and compete and create relationships that will last a lifetime. I am, as she talks about national champions and stuff, I got to be a national champion twice, and a Pac-12 champion 3 times. And those friendships are what I remember. The championships are great. And they're a feather in my cap, and it was a great experience. But the friendships, yes, just yesterday on Mother's Day, I have this entire group chat of just every girl that I've ever played with, and now we're moms. And it's not about softball; it's about all of our babies and the pictures and us celebrating Mother's Day. And so I think that our athletic experiences create relationships that last a lifetime, and that's really why I got into it moving forward.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I get to announce that Carol Dorio just won the softball pullover and visor. So good timing. Congratulations, Carol. Very cool. All right, let's hear from another coach who's willing to share their motivation participating in sport and their turning point of turning it into a profession. Who's willing to jump in?
I'll go. For me, sports, obviously, similar to both Desiree and Kristie, I grew up in a kind of an athletic family. I had a dad that was a high school coach. And so it wasn't at the highest stage, but just being exposed, I think, to sports. And again, my mom played adult league softball. She wasn't good enough for Kristie's team, but, she played in the adult league, and just very active. And so was exposed to it at a young age. And then, thankfully for my kind of path, I had female coaches even at a young age. Obviously I had my dad, but, he was my dad. I didn't listen to him. And so I was able to have female coaches at a really young age, even in middle school. And so I remember that like having an impact on me, and then going into college and playing for, a Hall of Famer coach. That's, I think, really when it kind of triggered in my brain, like, I can do this for a long time, not as a player, but in the sports realm as a coach, as something in sports and in basketball. And I think really being able to see it and have, especially, women kind of impact my life, that really, I think, gave me the sense that I want to help and do that for other people as well, young people, young women. So just to add a little bit different to both, what Kristie and Desiree added. Obviously, I kind of was probably the crazy kid too that, needed to get my energy out. So that helped from my parents' perspective, but the friendships, all of that, it really became, life-changing. And then I think you just get a sense of you want to continue it and give that back.
Nice. Thank you, Lindy. All right, I'm going to put a couple of our vets on the line here. Amy, Yvonne, I'm going to ask you another piece of this question now. I'm curious how many sports you actually played before college, and if the sport that you're currently coaching was the sport that you wanted to coach, if you could choose. So adding a little bit more depth to this question. So Yvonne, Amy?
I'll go. I actually, grew up with a single mother who was raising myself and my younger brother who was disabled, but she always pushed us to get involved with whatever. School was number one, obviously, and I was a math nerd, and I was in mathematics and engineering and science achievement groups and stuff, but she wanted us to try everything. So I tried dance, I was a ballerina, and I was a gymnast. So gymnastics was my first love, but I got obviously way too tall for it. When I was old enough to work, the gymnastic coach at the time asked me to be a coach, but I was only 15, so I couldn't get paid. I had to volunteer. And I went back to my mother and was like, I want to get a paycheck. Like, I'm going to volunteer. Are you serious? She's like, you don't do this for the money. You do it for the passion. And then the money will follow. And so my first job ever was a volunteer gymnastic coach for the recreation center in my city. And I loved it. I loved gymnastics. That was my first passion. And had I not grew to 5'9", I probably would still be aspiring gymnast. But, gymnastics has always been, my entryway into coaching. But it's always been about building that connection with young people and through sport, whatever that sport is. I mean, my mother told me early on that whatever you do, do it with passion, do it with love, and share that with the people that you lead.
Awesome. Okay, Coach. Yeah, I know you're all coaches, but Coach Amy.
Well, so I think the other panelists will find this hilarious, but I played every sport when I was a kid, and I really wasn't very good at it. But what it did do for me is, like, when I played soccer, it made my golf swing even better because I had really good coordination with my feet and being able to change the weight. So Jenny, thanks. Shout out to you for having that sport that helped me in my golf swing. But with my supportive parents, they took me to every sport, and I was able to play and participate. And then once I got into high school, it was more focused on just doing one thing, and that was electing to be in the golf profession. But sitting here right now, I never thought that it would be a profession. It was until the day that I got handed something that said, you should go to college for this. And I'm like, there's an option for that? Let's go. Where am I going? I can go do sport and get a degree. This is awesome. And so until I knew that that was an option, going down that path. But I'd say for me, all sports helped, and I love all sports, and I follow along, and there's a little bit of everything that you can learn from every competitive sport, because it's all the same, right? Like, we're all sitting in these chairs because we want to be great, and we want to pass along the integrity that we all have, and the things that we can do to teach and help young people. So that's what it's about. It doesn't matter what surface you're on or what ball you might have. It's just about helping the young people out and creating a great future for them.
Very nice. Thank you. So I get to announce another winner here. Looks like Stephen Harvey is winning the box of Titleist golf balls. Congratulations, Stephen. Very nice. All right, Coach Ruiz, we're not letting you off the hook. I am very curious about whether you played sports other than soccer and what influenced you to go from being an athlete to a coach.
I have only played soccer. And I always wished I had played other sports, but I found it right away and I fell in love with it. My little brother played, and I would go to his games and play off to the side. And one day I peeked over at a field and there were girls playing. And I ran to my mom and I was like, hey, what's up? You know, there's girls playing, Mom. And I dragged her over and I said, I want that. I want to play. And my mom is a next day, sign me up. And I did it ever since I was in my early 30s. And you get so many feel goods from sport that when my career ended, coaching is, I mean, we can all attest to the feel goods I get feel goods hearing. I mean, Lindy was talking the other day, or I heard Bailey, one of her players, speaking, and I got to feel good. And I didn't even coach Bailey. It's just spectacular. So it's an easy avenue to go where you're with teaching, infecting humans positively. Feel goods. I love it.
So what prompted you to become a coach?
So when my career ended in my early 30s, and I felt like I had been doing that. I went to grad school for teaching, and I kind of was at, what do I do now? Like, I'm too old to play, and I've spent all my time playing soccer, and I can't like go into another career. You know, I'm behind, and I was like, well, why would I? Why would you take something you're so, like, I can salivate right now. I'm drooling about soccer. That I've spent so much time investing, I'm so passionate about, and I love to teach. There it is. This is my path.
That's beautiful. If there's anything that I've heard that defines Coach Ruiz, it's passion. I love it. I cannot wait to see you coach. Absolutely love it. All right, Desiree, we're coming back to you. So you've been in athletic administration for over 20 years. I didn't write the script, someone else did. It looks very different in 2021 than it did when you first started. For example, at the University of Tennessee, there were separate men's and women's athletic departments. I remember those days. I lived those days too. And you were the first woman to actually be hired in the men's department. So can you talk about the evolution of athletic administration over your career, and perhaps leave us with 3 areas you see as opportunity for those who want to consider a career in college sport today?
Certainly, but you know, I don't want to cut Dawn. We haven't heard from Dawn yet in terms of why
Dawn,
she.
did I miss you? I'm so sorry.
No problem. So I'm gonna give some of my time over to Dawn because I want to hear this good answer too.
I'm not sure what part you want me to answer.
It was like, why did you play sports?
Yeah, so for me, it was in growing up, I grew up around sports, and I think for me, it was kind of an escape from life that I could find my own self. And I think that self-discovery is incredible when you can find that and grow in that space and feel that safe space that you can just go be who you are. And I think that's what we all really cherish about the sport. And then probably moving over, when I switched over, you know, I was playing professionally and I was like, this isn't for me. I'm not all about the individual person. And it's really about the team and what you can give back to somebody else and how you can build someone else up. And so that's for me, one reason why I got back into coaching. Just building strong, confident women is really important to me. And I would probably give anything just to do that. You know, winnings kind of take care of themselves as long as we're doing those little things on the side. And so spending a lot of time with the people in front of you is really important.
Well, I knew you'd have something, and I didn't want to skip that part, but so sorry, Nancy. Okay, so how has college athletics evolved? When I remember being, first of all, I didn't get into college athletic administration because I wanted to be an athletic director. I honestly didn't even know that was an option. I remember sitting in Marie calendars, being very, very pregnant with my son. And so I guess it was 17 years ago. And Sed Dempsey, who was used to be the president of the NCAA, used to be the University of Arizona's athletic director, he asked me and I was working with him on a strategic plan. And he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I guess I would like to be the senior women administrator at a then BCS institution, maybe at my alma mater. And he said, well, why wouldn't you want to be an athletic director? And at the time, and I never even thought that was an option. I really didn't. At the time, there were only 2 women, Barbara Hedges at the University of Washington and Debbie Yao, and she was at Maryland at the time. And Debbie is now probably she's a mentor of mine and someone that I call almost every 2 weeks. And she's just been a great lady that has helped me in my career. But she provided context, and Barbara Hedges provided context. And now, I was the first woman of color in 2017 to be an FBS athletic director. And I recognize how important it is for all of us to provide context. Not just me, but every single one of these coaches. We have got to be very intentional. Now there's 10 women now, I think at the FBS level that are athletic directors. There are 4 of us that are of color. It is critically important. And I didn't understand the importance of context until I read Sonia Sotomayor's, the Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor's book about providing context. And so we've got to provide context, but also we've got to reach back and in order to pull forward. We've got to do great work and be very intentional, because it's my goal to keep this door and this pipeline and really advocate for women and people and minorities and people who don't fit what was the norm. What I love about today, you asked about 25 years ago when I first started out versus today. What I love about today is that we're getting out of the scarcity mindset. We champion one another now. And we realize there's room at the table for more than just one woman. The expectation is that this table is going to be this beautiful, crazy, diverse table, because we need people's opinions that are different from one another. So I think the best part about where we are today, now we've got a lot of work to do, 100%. There are still only 10 of us, and there's only 4 women of color. And so there is a lot of work to do, but we're embracing it, we're being transparent, and we're pulling others along with us.
And I love that. And I'll add a little context to that story. There was a reason why you didn't think about being an athletic director. From the research, the path to athletic director at that point in time was through football. The majority of athletic directors had the credential of having coached football. That's the good old days, right? Which right away tells you that, of course, they were men. And that has shifted over the years. There's a very, very big shift. In fact, I think, we have one of those last remaining former football coaches turned AD retiring this year, with Alvarez retiring from Wisconsin, right? So yeah, there was a very real reason why you didn't perceive that as an option, and thankfully that no longer exists. All right, so that's a nice segue, because Desiree mentioned a couple of very significant women in her life that were influential. Coaches, who was a female role model that impacted your career in sport? And Dawn, since I missed you the first round, I'm going to start with you this time.
Yeah, some important females within my life. I had one when I was actually in 8th grade. So where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of females that played sports. And so I grew up actually playing with the boys. And so in 8th grade, the boys no longer would let me play with them. And so I had to petition to the high school to play with them. And so when I got to high school, I honestly didn't know what I was doing. I was probably a nice athlete, but I had no idea. And there was this, the women's volleyball coach actually came, and she's like, hey, just come on in and we'll take you in. And she just kind of showed me the ropes and didn't treat me as someone different. And so she was very impactful. I only had her for 1 year. She ended up going to coaching college the year after that. And to this day, I remember that. But I've had many in my life, right? But that one was very influential to me at a very young age, that someone could impact someone's life, and giving them some trust and giving them some confidence and teaching them the game, and even more than the game, just about life and how you go about it. And so, yeah, she was very impactful.
What was her name?
Mary Burns.
I always like to hear who, give credit where credit is due, right? Let's hear who these people are.
Yes, for
Very
sure.
Nice. All right. I have a volunteer to go next. All right, Christy.
Am I good now? Okay. So I didn't give this one a ton of thought until right now, But as I played for a male coach all growing up, because softball and travel ball is really like, it's changed now, but back in the day, it was all dads. So the baseball dads were coaching their daughters to play softball. So I hadn't had a ton of interaction with female coaches. And then I started my recruiting process, and I was pretty highly recruited to some of the top schools, national champions, things like that. But this one coach, she just really tried to connect with me. She stayed on me. She was the coach at Purdue, actually. And so they weren't a national champion. They weren't, one of those schools that were really, but I just really connected with her in a way. She was so passionate, and she didn't care. She recruited me anyways. And so I actually took one of my official visits there, and I had a great time. She just had so much passion for our game that even at a school where I really wasn't considering it, I considered it because she made me believe, right? She made me believe, and she painted a picture of a future that I could be a really big part of. And that always stuck with me. And she's actually now the president of our Coaches Association. So, she's doing the announcing, she's doing it all, but it's because she's just a great connector. She connects to people. She makes you believe in something bigger than yourself. And that truly always stuck with me. And I'll always be just so appreciative of those moments. And when I go into my coaching career, I played for a man who, Mike Candrea, who is, one of the most important softball coaches that has ever lived. But I also have this other person in the back of my mind who I'm like, okay, I can meld these together, and that's who I can emulate. And that's what I want to be like. I want my players to see my passion. I want my players to believe that they're capable, and just, she was a huge part of that for me.
What was her name, Kristie?
Carol Brueggemann. Did I miss it? Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. All right, good. Thank you for that. Let's hear from Yvonne. Any females in your life, women who've been influential in your career?
Absolutely. Obviously my mom, that's cliche, but she's been there, the whole time. But for my track and field career, I would say her name is Yolanda Hall. She was my college coach, and I had only ran 1 year in high school. So I was recruited by the University of Colorado, pretty much an unknown. And this coach, she was just a few years older than us. So she was young, but she was tough. She didn't take anything, and just watching her and the way she motivated us every day. She was in our personal lives. She made sure that we were, behaving, doing all the things that we're supposed to do. And 4 years later, I'm an Olympian as a senior in college. So, it was her, her ways, her toughness, her support, her motivation that allowed me to be the athlete that I am and the coach that I am. She's still coaching. Now she's at Michigan State. We talk weekly. She's just a great motivator. Her kids are great athletes as well. But she just taught me how to be strong, independent, tough. She doesn't take any mess. We dreaded some workouts at times, but we knew it was for the best. But she is definitely somebody that inspired me to be what I do today.
Love that. Okay, I get to announce now that Eric Stoff wins the track and field jacket. Perfect timing. Coach Wade, track and field. Congratulations, Eric. All right, let's move on. Let's hear about some more female role models that influenced your lives. Jenny, Lindy, Amy, you all are still on the hot seat.
I'll go next. I would say that very similar to Kristie, I didn't have a female coach for my whole playing career pretty much until I was in my 30s. And I would say, I'll give you as a child, but right now, like if you're looking at my role models, I can go down my hall and ask questions. The impact Desiree's had on my team. I mean, someone was wearing, like day one I got here, one of the players had, she called them her Desiree pants. Like she's iconic here. It just the impact, and I all of them. So it's a work in progress right now, but I wish I had it earlier in my, this impact from these women, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to text them and grab them and email them as much as possible. But as a youth, it was the U.S. national team. I could watch those women and I wanted to be like them. And there was an advertisement that came out. It was Julie Foudy. And it was the first time I ever saw a women's soccer player in a magazine. And I cut it out and I taped it on my wall. And the title of it was Julie Foudy was like doing a full volley in the air. And it said tomboy. All right, call me a tomboy. I remember it. Tomboys get medals. Tomboys win championships. Tomboys can fly. And tomboys aren't boys. And that was my motto. I was like, let's go. Like, I loved that.
You are awesome, Jenny. I understand now the descriptions of your passion, because it just comes out. And I remember that ad. That was a Nike ad. And all I'll say is her podcast is also worth a listen, laughter permitted. So Julie Foudy, great role model, great example. Okay. A couple more of you still have to share with us, who were those influential women in your lives?
Well, it's never fun to follow Jenny just because you can't get to that level sometimes, but I'll do my best.
Hold up, Lindsay. You and there's 2 football helmets the other day. She's like, let's put these on. And she was crashing.
Well, I do echo obviously what Jenny has even said about Desiree and her leadership and just continuing to evolve. I think the women that I admire and try to learn from, it's been great to just honestly have so many to pick from these days, which wasn't the case. As a player and as a young basketball player, I had the, privilege to play for one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, Tara Vanderveer. I mean, arguably men, women, more wins than can even count. And so clearly she has had just a huge impact on my life, and as a college student, as a college player. And then I think even more had a bigger impact when I went back and worked with her. And so to kind of have the same mentor, the same role model, and really 2 different, we're talking about context and 2 different perspectives, it was really impactful, obviously, and life-changing, even continuously. So that's been really special. But there's a lot of, female coaches out there now, someone like Adia Barnes at Arizona, obviously she's gotten a lot of deserved media attention with, breastfeeding her, pumping at the halftime of the championship game, and I was telling someone, unfortunately, obviously she wasn't the first and she's not going to be the last, but the great thing is she's had this media platform, and now there's social media to where we can expose those things that, are what people think are heroic, but that's actually just what mothers do, and what a lot of women do. So it's been great, and to have someone like that as, someone that wants to be in this for a long time and have a family and all those things really impact me as a young coach still.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I believe she did become the winningest coach in women's basketball history this year, right? She is leading that category now. That's a pretty good role model. All right. I think, Amy, you are left to respond to this question.
Yeah, and I too am glad that I don't have to follow Jenny, because she brings it, and it's like I don't ever think I've seen her running around this building where it wasn't that amount of energy. So I respect that tremendous amount. But kind of answering and echoing a couple answers that have come off of this is I actually had a lot of male encouragement throughout my career. In the organization that I'm a part of, the Professional Golfers Association, there's 27,000 members and something like under 900 women. And so it's really what I took from it. And so it was surrounding yourself with males to say, you got this, let's go. Why aren't you doing this? But I'd say one of the really cool things I had the opportunity to do early on in my coaching career was attend the Women's Coaches Academy with Celia Slater and meet a lot of other women that were doing it. And that was new for me because I had been surrounded by all of these males for so long that I'm like, wait a minute, there's a bowling coach somewhere and you're a woman? Wow, like I want to learn more from you, and you've been doing it for 25 years. And so that's a really cool organization that the NCAA has started to do is bring on these coaches academies. And my second one happened, I was invited back to be able to do a 2.0 class. And I was able to attend that my first summer that I was a head coach. And I was like, this is such a good thing for me. And then I'd say lastly, it's the women on this call. And it's not a joke when we talk about that we actually text each other and talk about things and figure things out together and navigate what we're navigating through or celebrate the victories together. And that's what's really a neat deal. And we can learn from each other. And the other ladies on this call might tell you, but I'm like a lifelong learner and a reader. I read literally all the time. And so it's one of those things that, I'm happy to talk about and happy to help and happy that we have this group together.
Thank you. Awesome. And I get to announce that Thea Sweeter wins the Lady Rebels jersey. Woohoo! Very cool. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to some questions that have been posed by folks that are in attendance. So Jeanette asked, how can retired senior women who missed out on the wonderful advancement participant help move forward the younger generation? So I think that is maybe perhaps for you, Desiree. How can someone who's retired, a more senior woman who missed out on all these opportunities, help move the younger generation forward?
Great question. And I think tell your story and then reach out and get involved. There are still just, you may have retired, but we know how much incredible wisdom is out there. And let's make sure and bring, there's room underneath the tent for all of us. And we need your wisdom. We need your passion. So get involved and be the role model and share your story. Be the role model that you are and let us experience your story. One thing that I know, none of us on this call would not be where we are if it wasn't for the giants whose shoulders we have stood upon. What Coach Tara has done has really just opened the door, not just for Lindy, but it's opened the door for all of us. So I had the good fortune of working at the University of Tennessee, and what Pat did for me impacts my life every day. So get involved and we need you.
Thank you for that. Sheesh, another amazing role model to have on the list. That's Pat Summit. It doesn't get a lot better than that. But there's some really great names that have been mentioned here today. So very exciting. All right, Alyssa G asked, what is the best advice you have for young female coaches in the industry? So let's just go around the horn here with one piece of advice so we can kind of make it around the horn in the time that we have, because I have a few more questions. One piece of advice you would give to a young female coach. Coach Wade, start us off.
I would say just be great at your craft. Always study, always learn, keep learning. There are so many great coaches out there to chime off of, and the knowledge is out there for everyone. So make sure that you're connecting, learning, getting better. Our goal is not just to be the only female in the room, but the champion in the room to win. So be good at what you do. Be great at what you do.
Love that. Christy, how about you?
Love that answer. So I'll build off it, give you some different pieces. I would say be authentic, stay true to yourself. I think that's huge in coaching. I think that, our student athletes and the people around you can see through a lot of things. So be authentic and be true to yourself, and know there's a lot of different ways to be successful. And the best way you're going to be successful is if you're true to yourself.
Nice. Thank you for that. Dawn, how about you? Piece of advice.
I think we're all here to help each other, and so reach out. And I think sometimes it's like a little bit nervous, like should I or shouldn't I? And we want to help. And so I would say the biggest thing is put that foot forward and trust yourself and have confidence in yourself, and just reach out and ask for help.
Love that. Good answer. Amy, how about you?
To not repeat anybody's here, I'd say don't be afraid to make decisions. Don't be afraid to take that step, and say yes to anything that you have the opportunity to go to. But don't be afraid to make it, because if you don't make it, it's never going to happen. So, or you're never going to learn from it.
Good job. Okay, Lindy, your turn. Piece of advice.
A little bit of a combination of some similar to Dawn. I would say put yourself out there. Put yourself out there and study people. You know, go make trips, go to as many clinics, go to different networking things, all that you can. You know, I remember as a young coach, it was like sometimes talking to people is the hardest thing, and you just got to go do it. So let your guard down, be a little vulnerable, and put yourself out there.
All right. And I think, Jenny, that leaves you.
The first thing that popped in my head was like coaching education, and that alone puts you in very uncomfortable situations. So preparing coaching education.
Very good. And I get to announce that Linda Keaton-Cardno wins the UNLV Nike volleyball long sleeve t-shirt. Yay, Linda. Desiree, would you like to give a piece of advice for young female coaches in the industry?
Don't wait for the exact perfect right opportunity. If you're waiting for perfection, you might be waiting an entire career. So be open to new opportunities, and remember your career. I wish I could tell every young coach out there that your career is going to go just like this. And if you do X, then you're going to be Lindy La Rocque or Yvonne Wade or Dawn Sullivan or Amy or Kristie, Jenny. But in your career, most likely you're going to have some dips, but it's in those dips and in those moments where you are so uncomfortable, you're going to look back and realize that is your biggest opportunity for growth. And then finally, take criticism seriously, but not personally. If you aren't going to take advice from folks who write things about you on Twitter, then you don't have to take the criticism either. But you want to listen because you want to see if there's an opportunity for us to get better. But remember, it's not personal.
That's some good advice for sure, especially in the world we live in. All right, so we have another a little bit deeper question from Alyssa H. She's asking, what path and obstacles did you each face to get to where you are today? So again, that's probably an interesting question the longer your career has been. So let's maybe identify an obstacle you can share with the group that, you can talk about how you were able to overcome that primary or influential obstacle. I will start with Yvonne.
Hello. I think the biggest obstacle for me was when I first got this head coaching opportunity was reading the tweets. Oh, she just got the job because she is a Black female. That's the only reason why she got the job. So hearing that was difficult, but proving that it was not the only reason why I got the job was my mission. Showing that I was capable and I earned this job, that I was the right person for the job, that I can win championships, that I can go in there and take a team and uplift them to the level that we need to get to, was my mission. So overcoming that was probably the biggest obstacle for me, but definitely a great challenge, and made me motivated to do what I do.
And to be an incredible role model in the process. Yeah, good job. Okay, let's hear from Lindy. Was there an obstacle on your path that you can share with us?
I think honestly, the biggest thing is getting in. So I, as a young coach, so many former players, so many young coaches, reach out to me is like, how did you start? How'd you get in? How'd you get in? And because it is kind of a small network. And so I think getting in is a lot of times the hardest part. And so, piggybacking on some of the advice of just let your guard down and don't be too big for any small job. I was, obviously I've had some great opportunities in my career, but I was ready to go work for no money, to work for the best coach in the country, and just to be around that. So, the hardest part can sometimes just be getting your foot in the door, getting in, and that's where you just have to humble yourself. And it's not about the money. It's if you want to do this or not, and just trying to find that and really do the smallest jobs to the greatest of the ability.
Very nice. Thank you for that. Amy, how about you? Any obstacles?
I'd say when I first got in was being afraid to ask. right? Like ask the questions because you were almost too, and I don't want to use the word embarrassed, but like, this can't be happening to others, right? This can't be happening on other teams. But in reality, it happens on every team. And so it was just kind of asking the questions and asking the right questions to see how other people had navigated the same situation that you're in. Because again, it's out there. And so it was just having the courage to say, okay, this is happening and I don't know why, but I need some help. And once that kind of overcame, it's now interesting as I get further and further into my career, how I get those same questions from young coaches. And I'm like, ladies, I still have to ask the same questions. And I've been doing this a long time. So, or, ooh, that's a new one, but let's navigate this together. And so that's for me was the asking, and don't be afraid to do it, because once you do it, you learn so much.
Very nice. Kristie, how about an obstacle you faced and overcame?
I think for me is when I transitioned from an assistant coach to a head coach. At the time, I was I think I was the youngest coach to be named to a D1 school. And, you know, the old saying of good players can't coach and things like that. As an assistant, I was really more focused on X's and O's, and I was really confident in that and how to help my players become better ball players. And then that transition to the head coach, it becomes less about X's and O's and it's about the people. It's about how am I going to help them grow as a person? And that's a huge responsibility. And so for me, that was a really big transition. And I think one thing you're hearing across the board is, you know, we don't have all the answers, but what we do have is a great network of women and to reach out and to get information and to share that information because you know, everybody has a background and they have a story to tell. And the more you know, the more you can provide value to your student athletes. And as a head coach, that's about 99% of your job is to really help these young women and ladies prepare for life after sports. And so that was a big transition and obstacle for me going from assistant to head.
Very nice, thank you. So I get to announce that Amanda Hines has won the UNLV Nike soccer jersey and pullover. Yay, Amanda. All right, and with that, Jenny, I think you get to share any obstacle you experienced and how you overcame it.
This goes with what Desiree and Yvonne were saying about criticism. I think when I know what other people think, that's an obstacle because when you're dealing with how people, the assumptions is difficult. And then going back to what Kristie said, see, I'm learning still, being authentic, so important. So anytime I've encountered that, I found it to be a hurdle, right? But hurdles, you know, you need to grind and sprint and run and hurdle them, run over them and get through them. So that's where I found success with that. But I remember when I made the jump to be a head coach, someone telling me I was too nice. I'd probably be too nice to be a head coach. And that one was my favorite one because that's how I played when I was a player. People thought I was too nice, but you know, you cross that white line and you get a little gritty, and it's fun.
Very good, thank you. And Dawn, I think you need to round us out here.
Yeah, I think for me, I actually came to talk to you a little bit about this, was just finding my voice. And you got to learn, you got to trust yourself, you got to dig in there, and it's going to feel really uncomfortable at times. And I think the more you put yourself in it, the better you get at it. And so you just have to continue to feel it, to feel the uncomfortable feeling and to find your voice and who you are and make sure that is authentic, right? And make sure you're leading the way you want to lead and growing the people you want to grow. And just all around, I think just finding that voice is really important and just trusting yourself in that process.
Very nice, thank you for that. Desiree, would you like to close us out? Any obstacles you overcame that you would like to share with the group?
Sure. And like Jenny, I am listening and learning because I hope you can feel like the expertise and the passion and the wisdom in this group. I think the obstacle probably to prepare, not compare. When I was coming up, I would look around and I would see some of my male colleagues and they would be getting this job or this opportunity. And I'd like to tell you that I was the bigger person and was just purely happy for them. I wish I was that a better person, but I must say that I was, there was a little bit of that comparison as a thief of joy. And I kept wondering, like, well, why is it that I'm not getting that opportunity? And I thought, man, when I do get that opportunity, I'm going to make the absolute most of it. And we are going to be excellent, because I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. So what I did learn was that, yeah, you have to prepare, not compare. And it's just like when we're playing or when I was rowing, the more I forced it, the more nothing, I was just going to catch crabs, which in rowing means anyway. So prepare, not compare, and play your game. Don't necessarily worry about what everybody else is doing.
Very nice. Thank you for that. Yeah, Yvonne, go ahead.
One thing I just thought of, because I had a mentoring conversation the other day, and one of my challenges, because this came up in our conversation, obstacles, was balancing what we do with motherhood and being a wife. I think now my kid's almost 16, which is crazy. But in the beginning, it was hard to try to figure out how to do this all. You know, how am I going to raise 50 women on a track team and these little kids at home and make time for them? And so, you know, you find out during your path, you know, go find a home that allows you to do it all. We're built this way. We are strong women. We are made to do a lot of things, and we can do it successfully. Just find a place, and UNLV has been an amazing place where I can do all of that, be a great mom and a great coach, but just find a place that's going to allow you to be who you want to be and grow into, for sure.
You know what, and riffing off that, Yvonne, one thing, you're on personal board of directors, but then also go where you are celebrated. Who you work for really, really matters, and who you surround yourself with, because you don't want to go chase a title or chase a name brand, maybe chase even the dollars, if you're just going to be tolerated, not celebrated. And what I love when I'm looking around this group is I'm seeing this wonderful collegiality and camaraderie where we genuinely all pull for one another. So, sorry, Nancy, to interrupt.
Oh, please, that's beautiful to hear, Desiree. I love hearing that. A lot of people that would like to be in an environment like that. Okay, so we have one more question coming from the attendees here. So Savannah Stallworth asked, how can we take our passion and competitiveness we grew up with on the field and court into the workforce as a woman? I'll just open it up to the group here. Who would like to take that one on? Okay, Amy?
Well, I think the biggest thing with taking it into the workplace is sports teaches you about rules and integrity and values. And I think the biggest thing from that is take those sports and take the compassion that you have for that into your work. And make sure that, you know, the biggest thing is you're sticking to the integrity that you have and the values that you learned. And that'll take you a long way, because people want to surround themselves with people that have the high integrity and the high intensity to be great. And so that's one thing that yeah, any sport will teach you that. It doesn't matter, again, what surface you're on.
Love that. Who's next?
I can go.
Okay.
I think sports, you're going to be faced with challenges every single day and obstacles every single day, and they're going to change. And the exact same thing is true in the workplace, you know, and so how you handle yourself today and tomorrow and the next day it's really important. And so being able to put yourself in those uncomfortable moments and being able to have the conversations you need to have, and just how you come through those is really important. And I think correlates very well.
And I know Savannah, and then I saw Lindy's, didn't mean to jump in, Lindy. Savannah is an all-star, and she's going to make any organization absolutely better. But you know what, quite frankly, that's part of our secret sauce. 63% of our first 50 hires were former Division I athletes, and that's intentional, because student athletes make others around them better. That competitive fire, that drive, that determination, that's hard to teach. If you were a student athlete growing up, there's a reason why I think like 90% of the C-suite were high school athletes. It's great business. So Savannah, you're an all-star and we love you. But sorry, Lindy, go ahead.
I was going to say hi to Savannah too, but I think the biggest thing relating the sports to the workplace also is the problem solving, and then the repetition of routines that often get monotonous to people. But if you've played a sport, if you've been an athlete, you know that that repetition and routine is where you become great. And if you can continue to pound the stone, that's who breaks it, not who gets beat by the stone. And so that, I think, you know, I dabbled in the corporate life for like 8 months, and I remember I'm like, man, this is the same thing over and over. And thank goodness it feels just like practice, because, you know, maybe I can rise above, you know, some of the problems or the challenges. And then when adversity hits, you know, you've got the problem solving skills to kind of react quickly like you do in a game setting.
Love that. Great answer. Who's next?
I'll just add real quick, just to be more like, all of these things are great for our woman, man, anything. I think sometimes as women, we fear our own voice. And I think athletics kind of lets us have that voice. And then the other thing is to not fear failure and put yourself out there. I think you've heard everybody say that. Reach out, put yourself out there. Don't fear failure, and don't fear your own voice. Sometimes I think as women, that's where we kind of get stuck. We know what we're doing, but we're afraid to speak up. And don't be afraid to speak up.
All right, we're rounding it up here. Who's left? I've lost track. Jenny, have you given us any advice?
I think everyone's kind of set. When I heard the question, I thought, well, you win for your employer. I thought of the competitiveness. You want to be excellent with character, discipline, leadership. You win the moments for your employer. I think all of that goes into the workplace.
Dawn, have we heard from you? Yeah, you already got in there. Okay. Who have I not heard from? Everybody has chimed in on this one?
I have not yet.
All right, there we go.
Well, I would say, you know, sport and life kind of mirror each other. And the things that you learn from sport, from goal setting to working towards something, to failing and then getting up, picking yourself up and going after it again, teaches you a lot. And you can transfer that into the workforce. And I think all of us on this call right now develop our young athletes in that way, to teach them through sport how to be successful in life. And it's just such a great way to develop young people. And I encourage young people to just do everything you can to try a different sport, try soccer, golf, whatever, because it's going to teach you a lot moving forward.
Love that, Yvonne. That was a very nice conclusion, if you will, of everything that we've all said. So I heard no fear, I heard win, be that champion in the office, I heard persistence, I heard voice, I heard just a whole bunch of role models here today saying things that certainly are the inspiration that can move the needle forward. I will say, Desiree, that it's actually 94% of women that achieve the level of C-suite executive participated in sport. 50% of those, in fact, were college athletes. So that's coming out of Ernst & Young's research on the Female Athlete Network. And for Dan Bubb, who asked if you're interested in resources on research on women in sport, please reach out to me personally, because I can give you more than you probably ever would care to have. And you'll see through the nods on the heads of the folks that have worked with me that I can definitely overwhelm you with those resources. But this has been a fantastic group of women that sharing their expertise, sharing their life story, sharing their wisdom. I hope all of you who joined us today learned something, felt inspired, because I know I did, and you have something you can take away and actually take action on. I think there was a lot of energy towards action here today, very impactful wisdom. So thank you all for attending. Thank you, coaches. Thank you, Desiree. We had a wonderful, authentic, honest conversation here today. And I think it was very rich and rewarding. So thank you all for coming. And I think that closes us all out. Everyone be well.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thank you.